The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light orbiting the planet Velthara Prime. Inside, representatives from 53 different alien species sat in their designated seats, waiting for the vote that would decide Earth's future. Captain Dae-jung Kim stood on the observation deck of the human ship Perseverance, watching through the transparent wall. His reflection stared back at him, showing a man of 52 years with gray hair and tired eyes. The scars on his face told stories of battles fought in the early days of human space exploration. Now he waited for a different kind of battle, one fought with words instead of weapons. Below him, in the main chamber, Ambassador Hannah Park prepared to speak. She was Earth's best diplomat, chosen for her brilliant mind and calm presence. For 30 years, humanity had been on probation with the Galactic Council. 30 years of proving themselves worthy. 30 years of following every rule, helping other species, sharing their medical discoveries, and keeping the peace. Today, the Council would vote on whether Earth deserved full membership. Hannah stepped forward to the speaking platform. The lights dimmed, focusing on her small human frame among the giants and strange beings that filled the room. She began to speak, her voice steady and clear. Honored council members, I stand before you representing the people of Earth. For 3 decades we have worked alongside you. We have shown you who we are. We have shared our knowledge freely. When the plague struck the Torvan colonies, human doctors worked day and night to find a cure. When pirates threatened the trade routes near Rigel, human ships helped restore order. We have been good neighbors, faithful partners, and honest friends. She paused, letting her words sink in. In the observation deck, Dae-jung clenched his fists. He wanted to believe this would work. He wanted to believe that fairness and truth would win the day. Dr. Yuna Lee stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the data screens showing real-time translations and reactions from the different species. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life and behavior. Something in the data bothered her, but she could not quite identify what. Hannah continued her speech, presenting evidence of human contributions. Images filled the holographic displays showing human engineers building stations, human teachers working with alien children, human scientists solving problems alongside their galactic peers. It was a strong case built on facts and genuine goodwill. Then Councillor Thexeril of the Vrelith Dominion requested to speak. The insectoid being rose from his seat, his multiple legs clicking against the floor. His species controlled much of the galactic economy through trade and banking. When the Vrelith spoke, others listened. The human representative speaks well, Thexeril began, his voice buzzing through the translators. But words are easy. Let us examine the truth of humanity. The holographic displays changed. New images appeared, showing human wars, human weapons, human violence. The footage had been carefully selected to show humanity at its worst. Ancient conflicts, modern skirmishes, every dark moment of human history played out for the Council to see. This is what humans are, Thexeril declared. A violent species, a dangerous species. In just 300 years of space travel, they have built a military fleet that rivals species with 1,000 years of experience. They expand rapidly, consume resources without thought, and their unpredictability makes them a threat to galactic stability. Yuna's fingers flew across her datapad. Something was wrong with the footage being shown. The timestamps did not match. Some of the conflicts displayed had happened over 200 years ago, before humanity even left Earth. Other scenes were edited, missing context that would explain the violence. Ambassador, Yuna whispered urgently through her communicator. The data is fake. They have manipulated the evidence, but it was too late. The damage was done. Dae-jung could see it in the body language of the council members. Fear had entered the chamber. The Vrelith had painted humans as monsters, and the image stuck. Hannah tried to respond, to explain, to provide context, but Thexeril called for the vote before she could finish. Let the council decide, he said. Should humanity be granted full membership, or should they be controlled before they become a greater threat? The voting began. On the displays, numbers started to appear. Red for no, green for yes, blue for abstain. Dae-jung watched the count with growing horror. Red dominated the board. The Vrelith voted no. The Morvan Republic voted no. The Keltheran Collective voted no. Species after species rejected Earth's petition. When the final count appeared, the silence in the chamber was absolute. 41 species had voted against Earth. 9 had abstained. Only 3 had voted yes. Hana stood frozen at the podium. In the observation deck, Yuna felt tears running down her face. Daejong simply stared, his military training the only thing keeping him upright. But the council was not finished. Thexril spoke again. The council has decided that humanity poses a potential threat. Therefore, we impose the following conditions. Earth must dismantle 75% of its military forces. All human colonies beyond the Mars orbit must be surrendered to council oversight. Earth's government must submit to galactic supervision. You have 30 days to comply. The words hit like physical blows. These were not terms of rejection. These were terms of conquest. The council was demanding that humanity surrender its freedom. Admiral Taemin Choi, watching from Earth, slammed his fist on his desk. The other military commanders in the room erupted in angry shouts. This was worse than anyone had imagined. Back in the chamber, Hana found her voice. Her hands shook, but her words came out clear and strong. The council's decision is noted. Earth requests time to consider these terms. We asked for 30 days, as is traditional. Thexril's alien features twisted in what might have been a smile. Given humanity's dangerous nature, we grant you 7 days. Not 1 hour more. The session ended. The council members began to file out. Some looking ashamed, others satisfied, most simply indifferent. They had made their decision and now moved on to other business. Daejong met Hana at the docking port. She looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of the verdict had physically crushed her. I failed, she whispered. I thought truth and evidence would be enough. You did everything right, Daejong replied. This was not about truth. This was about fear and politics. As the Perseverance undocked from the council station, Yuna reported more disturbing news. Captain, we are being followed. The council has deployed surveillance drones. They are tracking our every move. Daejong was not surprised. They do not trust us to comply. They are already preparing to enforce their will. He walked to the communications room and sent an encrypted message directly to Admiral Taemin on Earth. The message was brief. Just 4 words that would change everything. Prepare Protocol Defiance. On Earth, Admiral Taemin received the message. He looked at the other military leaders gathered in the command center. For years they had prepared for this possibility. They had hoped it would never come. But hope was not a strategy. Gentlemen, ladies, Taemin said quietly. The council has made their choice. Now we make ours. In the Perseverance, Hana stood looking out at the stars. Somewhere among those lights was Earth, her home, her family, everyone she loved. The council had demanded submission. They had demanded humanity kneel and accept chains. She thought about her brother Jae-hoon, a brilliant hacker who had always said that freedom was worth any price. She thought about her parents, killed by pirates in an incident the council had refused to investigate. She thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of a future among them. What will we do? Yuna asked softly. Hana's reflection in the window showed a different woman than the one who had entered the council chamber. That woman had believed in diplomacy and reason. This woman had learned a harder truth. We do what humans have always done, Hana said. We survive. The Perseverance turned toward home, toward Earth, toward the decision that would define humanity's future. Behind them, the council chamber continued its business, unaware that they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. They had tried to break humanity. They would soon learn that some things cannot be broken. Some things only become stronger when tested, and humanity pushed to the edge would show the galaxy what defiance truly meant. President Ji Woo Kang stood at the window of her office in the United Nations Galactic Affairs Building, watching the sun set over the city. In 5 days, the Council's deadline would arrive. In 5 days, humanity would have to give its answer. The weight of that decision rested on her shoulders like a physical burden. Behind her, the emergency session continued. Military advisors, civilian leaders, colonial governors, and representatives from every major nation on Earth argued about the path forward. Some wanted to comply, to avoid war at any cost. Others demanded resistance, no matter the price. The room was filled with fear, anger, and desperate hope. "We cannot fight the entire galaxy," said one of the diplomats, his voice shaking. "Their fleet numbers in the thousands. We have barely 200 ships. This is suicide." General Borishin stood up slowly. She was the head of Earth Defense Intelligence, a woman who had spent her entire career preparing for the worst possible scenarios. This was worse than anything she had imagined, yet her face remained calm. "The Council believes we have 200 ships," she said quietly. "They are wrong." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to General Bora. For the past 15 years, while we were on probation, we followed every rule the Council gave us. We smiled, we cooperated, we played the role of grateful students. But we also learned. We studied every piece of alien technology we encountered. We reverse-engineered their systems. We innovated beyond them. And we prepared. She activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing hidden shipyards in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond the orbit of Pluto where Council observers never looked. Massive construction facilities built in secret, powered by fusion reactors that produce no detectable signature. The Prometheus Initiative, General Bora announced. 450 ships equipped with hybrid human-alien technology. Stealth systems that make our vessels invisible to Council sensors. Weapons designed to exploit weaknesses in their shielding. And a quantum communication network that allows instantaneous coordination across light years. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Even President Jiwoo looked surprised. The general had kept this secret well. "How is this possible?" someone asked. "The cost alone would be impossible to hide." "We used resources from asteroid mining operations," General Bora explained. "Profits that officially went to colonial development actually funded the shipyards. Every nation contributed without knowing the full picture. It was the greatest secret in human history." Admiral Taemin Choi stepped forward to join General Bora. He was the fleet commander of Earth's United Defense Force, a veteran of the early colony wars. His presence commanded respect. "The ships are real," Taemin confirmed. "But they are not ready. The weapon systems are untested. The crews are still training. We built the fleet hoping we would never need it. Now we need more time." "How much time?" President Jiwoo asked. 3 weeks. Maybe 4. "We have 5 days." The brutal math of the situation settled over everyone. They had the tools to resist, but not enough time to prepare properly. Engineer Hyunwoo Nam, the lead designer of the Prometheus Initiative, spoke up from his seat. He was younger than most in the room, barely 40, but his genius had made the impossible fleet a reality. "We can accelerate the testing schedule," Hyunwoo said. "Run simulations continuously. Train the crews in shifts. If we push hard, we might be combat ready in 2 weeks." "And what do we do for the 9 days between the deadline and readiness?" someone asked. Taemin smiled grimly. "We make them think we are complying. We evacuate non-essential personnel from the colonies. We stand down some of our visible fleet. We play for time while secretly preparing every settlement to become a fortress." President Jiwoo listened to all the arguments, all the plans, all the desperate hope and calculated risk. Finally, she raised her hand for silence. "Before we decide on strategy, we must decide on principle. Do we submit to the Council's terms or do we resist?" The room went quiet. This was the fundamental question that everything else depended on. "If we submit," Jiwoo continued, "we lose our freedom. We become subjects of the Council. Our government controlled by aliens who fear us. Our children will grow up in chains. But we survive. If we resist, we face war against impossible odds. Many will die. We might lose everything. But we remain free." She looked around the room at every face. "I will not make this choice alone. This decision belongs to all humanity. We will put it to a vote. Every person on Earth, every colonist on Mars and Titan and Europa, every human in space will have their say. We have 5 days. Let us use them to hear from our people." The global referendum was announced within the hour. Across Earth and all its colonies, the question was simple and clear: submit or resist. While the vote was being organized, Dr. Yuna Lee worked frantically in her laboratory. She had been analyzing the manipulated evidence presented at the Council. The trail of digital breadcrumbs led her to the Morvan Republic, the reptilian traders known for their shrewd business practices. What she discovered shocked her. The Morvan were selling weapons to multiple parties, including some that were clearly preparing for conflict with Earth. They wanted a war because war was profitable. They had helped manipulate the Council vote to create the exact crisis that would drive weapon sales. But there was more. Encrypted communications between the Vrelith and an unknown third party showed something darker. Someone was offering them human technology in exchange for Earth's complete destruction. Not conquest, not subjugation, elimination. Yuna brought this information to Ambassador Hana Park, who had returned to Earth after the Council vote. Hana looked at the data with growing horror. Someone on the Council wants humanity extinct, Hana said slowly. This was never about our military threat or our unpredictability. This is genocide disguised as policy. What do we do? Yuna asked. Hana thought for a moment, then made a decision. We expose them. Not to the full Council, they would never listen. But to the moderate species, the ones who abstained or voted for us. We show them they are being manipulated into supporting mass murder. Over the next 3 days, Hana secretly contacted representatives from the Torvan Assembly, the Belkari Conquered, and the Zethian Protectorate. These were species known for their philosophical and ethical stances. She presented the evidence carefully, showing them the Morvan weapons dealing and the mysterious communications calling for human extinction. The response was not immediate, but it was significant. The Torvan Assembly's counselor, a being named Ven, sent a private message. We were troubled by the vote. This information confirms our fears. You have allies, though we cannot speak openly yet. Survive the coming storm and we will stand with you. It was not much, but it was hope. Meanwhile, Captain Daejung Kim received orders to command the orbital defense grid around Earth. It was a position usually given to someone expected to die buying time for others. He understood what it meant. He was being asked to be humanity's shield. He visited his family one last time. His wife held him tightly, saying nothing because there was nothing to say. His daughter Subin, a pilot in training, looked at him with fierce determination. I want to fight too, she said. You are too young, Daejung replied. I am 19. You were 17 when you enlisted? He could not argue with that. Then you fly with honor. You protect the innocent. And you come home. Only if you do too, she said. It was a promise neither of them could keep, but they made it anyway. The referendum results came in on the 4th day. The vote was not even close. 87% of humanity chose resistance. Across every nation, every colony, every demographic, the answer was the same. Humanity would not kneel. President Jiwoo addressed the world on the 5th day as the deadline arrived. She stood before cameras that broadcast to every screen on Earth and beyond. Her words were simple and direct. The Galactic Council has demanded our surrender. They asked us to dismantle our defenses, abandon our colonies, and submit to their control. We have reviewed these terms. We have listened to our people. Our answer is no. She paused, letting the weight of that single word sink in. We did not seek this conflict. We pursued peace with every tool at our disposal. We proved our worth through cooperation and contribution. But the Council chose fear over friendship. They chose to see us as threats rather than partners. That was their decision. Now we make ours. Her voice grew stronger, filled with conviction. Earth and all her colonies will remain free. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not abandon our people. We will not accept chains. To those in the Council who voted for us, we thank you. To those who abstained, we understand your caution. To those who voted against us, we say this. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues, world wars, and the void of space itself. We will survive you. The transmission ended. Across Earth, people watched the sky, knowing what would come next. In the Vrelith Dominion capital, Councillor Thexril received Earth's response with cold fury. He immediately ordered the mobilization of the fleet. 1,200 warships began preparation for the journey to Sol. The war humanity had tried to avoid was now inevitable. Admiral Taemin stood in the command center, watching the status reports from the Prometheus fleet. Hyunwoo's engineers were working miracles, but they needed more time. How long until the Vrelith arrive? Taemin asked. 3 weeks, came the response. 3 weeks to prepare. 3 weeks to train. 3 weeks before the largest battle in human history. Taemin activated the fleet-wide communication system. Every human ship, from Earth to the outer colonies, received his message. This is Admiral Taemin Choi. In 3 weeks they come for us. In 3 weeks we show them what happens when humanity stands its ground. Prepare for war. The Vrelith fleet moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts, 1,200 warships strong. They traveled in formation, confident and unstoppable. Admiral Thexril commanded from his flagship, a massive dreadnought that had never known defeat. He expected this mission to be simple. Humanity would see his fleet and surrender. If they did not, he would crush them quickly. He did not know that human eyes were watching every move he made. Commander Sujin Yoon sat in the captain's chair of the Shadow of Earth, a stealth destroyer invisible to the Vrelith sensors. Her ship was one of 20 following the enemy fleet, gathering intelligence from a distance of barely 10,000 kilometers. The Vrelith had no idea they were being watched. Analysis complete, her tactical officer reported. They are using a standard invasion formation. 3 battle groups. The first will strike Earth directly. The second targets Mars, the third goes for Titan. Sujin studied the data with growing concern. They plan to hit all 3 colonies at once. Force us to split our defenses. Estimated civilian casualties? She asked quietly. The officer hesitated before answering. In the millions. They classify civilian losses as acceptable. Rage flashed through Sujin, but she kept her voice calm. Send this intelligence to Earth immediately. Encrypted quantum burst. The message reached Admiral Tae-min within seconds, transmitted through the quantum communication network that gave humanity its greatest advantage. He read the report in his command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire Sol system. When he finished reading, he was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke to the assembled commanders. They plan to kill millions of our people to force a quick surrender. This is not a military operation. This is terrorism on a galactic scale. The room erupted in angry voices, but Tae-min raised his hand for silence. Our response must be precise. We protect our civilians first. Every non-combatant on Mars and Titan will be evacuated to underground shelters immediately. Every defense platform will be armed and ready. And when they arrive, we show them that human lives are not acceptable losses. On Mars, Governor Min-ho Choi organized the civilian evacuation with military efficiency. He was not a soldier, just a public administrator who had spent 20 years managing the growing colony. But when the war came, he discovered strengths he did not know he had. We have 40,000 people to move into the shelters, his assistant reported. The transport capacity is only 15,000 per day. Then we work faster, Min-ho replied. Cancel all non-essential activities. Every vehicle, every transport, every person who can help will join the evacuation. We have 2.5 weeks. We will save them all. The Martian colonist responded to his leadership with determination. Families packed emergency supplies. Engineers reinforced shelter walls. Volunteers organized supply lines. The Red Planet prepared for war. On Earth, Jae-hoon Park worked in a darkened room filled with computer screens. He was Ambassador Hana's younger brother, a brilliant hacker who had spent years perfecting his skills. Now he used those skills to infiltrate Council communications. Breaking through the Morvan Republic's security took him 3 days of continuous work. When he finally accessed their encrypted channels, what he found confirmed Dr. Yuna's suspicions and revealed something worse. The Morvan were not just selling weapons. They were actively sabotaging peace efforts, spreading misinformation and profiting from conflicts across the galaxy. But the communications also revealed the identity of the mysterious third party that wanted humanity destroyed. It was a rogue faction within the Keltheran Collective, the energy-based beings who viewed themselves as the galaxy's most evolved species. This faction believed humanity's rapid advancement represented an evolutionary threat. They had manipulated the council vote, provided intelligence to the Relith, and were now planning a second strike using biological weapons. Jae-hoon immediately sent his findings to his sister. Hana read the report with horror and determination. She knew what she had to do. Using the secure channels established during her earlier outreach, Hana contacted the moderate council members. She sent them everything Jae-hoon had discovered, complete with encrypted communications, financial records, and evidence of manipulation. You have been used, her message stated. The vote was not about protecting the galaxy. It was about eliminating a species that certain factions fear. You are better than this. The council is better than this. The response was slow but significant. The Torvan Assembly's Councillor Ven replied first. We suspected manipulation but lacked proof. This evidence is damning. We are convening an emergency session to review the vote. But this will take time, and your people do not have time. Know that you have allies. When the truth becomes public, the council will face a reckoning. Other responses followed. The Belkari Concord expressed outrage. The Zethian Protectorate withdrew their ships from the Vrelith fleet. The cracks in the council's unity were beginning to show, but none of this would stop the 1,200 warships currently approaching Earth. Engineer Hyunwoo Nam had not slept in 4 days. He worked around the clock in the hidden shipyards, testing systems and training crews. The Prometheus fleet was coming online faster than he had hoped, but problems kept appearing. The quantum torpedoes worked perfectly in simulations, but failed in 3 out of 10 live tests. The stealth systems occasionally flickered, making ships visible for microseconds. The shield generators overheated under sustained fire. "We need another week," Hyunwoo told Admiral Taemin during a secure communication. "Maybe 2. "You have 4 days, Taemin replied. "Then the Vrelith arrive. Make it work." Hyunwoo looked at his exhausted team of engineers and technicians. They had done the impossible already, building a secret fleet that rivaled anything in the galaxy. Now they needed another miracle. "All teams," he announced. "We work in continuous shifts. No breaks longer than 4 hours. Fix every problem, test every system, and prepare every ship. Our families are depending on us. Humanity is depending on us. We will not fail them." The engineers cheered, then returned to their work with renewed energy. Dr. Yuna Lee made a different kind of preparation. She created a comprehensive database of every alien species in the Council, documenting their biology, psychology, and weaknesses. She knew that understanding the enemy was as important as having superior weapons. Her research revealed something interesting about the Vrelith. Despite their military strength, they were deeply hierarchical. If the leadership was disrupted, the entire fleet would fall into chaos, while new command structures were established. She sent this information to Admiral Taemin with a simple note: "Cut off the head." Taemin studied her research and developed a new strategy. Instead of fighting the entire Vrelith fleet head-on, they would target the command ships first. Disrupt the leadership, create chaos, and exploit the confusion. Commander Sujin and her stealth ships would be critical to this plan. She received new orders directly from the Admiral. "When the battle begins, your primary target is the flagship. Ignore everything else. Take out Thexril and the fleet will fragment." Sujin acknowledged the orders, understanding what was being asked. Her small stealth destroyer would have to slip through 1,200 warships and strike at the most heavily defended target in the enemy fleet. The chances of survival were minimal. She did not hesitate. "Understood, Admiral. We will complete the mission." As the days counted down, the entire Sol system transformed. Every moon, every station, every settlement became an armed fortress. Weapons platforms were positioned in strategic locations. Supply caches were hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Evacuation routes were planned and rehearsed. On Earth, President Jiwoo visited hospitals where doctors prepared for mass casualties. She visited factories where workers built ammunition day and night. She visited schools where children practiced emergency drills. Everywhere she went, she looked people in the eyes and made the same promise: "We will protect you. We will fight for you. We will not let them break us." Captain Daejung Kim prepared the orbital defense grid, a network of weapons platforms and defensive stations surrounding Earth. He knew these defenses could not stop 1,200 ships, but they could slow them down. They could buy time for evacuations. They could make the Vrelith pay for every meter of space they claimed. His daughter Subin reported for duty with her fighter squadron. She had completed her training early, pushing herself harder than anyone else. When Daejung saw her in the pilot's briefing room, his heart broke and swelled with pride at the same time. "You do not have to do this," he told her privately. "Yes, I do," she replied. "This is my home too. These are my people too. If you can stand and fight, so can I." He hugged her tightly, knowing these might be their last moments together. The Vrelith fleet reached the edge of the Sol system with 2 days to spare. They sent one final transmission to Earth. "This is Admiral Thexril of the Vrelith Dominion. You have refused the Council's terms. You have chosen defiance. We offer you one last chance to surrender. Stand down your defenses and we will be merciful. Resist and you will be destroyed." Admiral Taemin composed his response carefully. It needed to be strong without being reckless, defiant without being foolish. But when the moment came, he realized words were not enough. Instead of a verbal response, every human ship in the system activated their engines simultaneously. 450 warships emerged from hiding spots throughout the Sol system. Defense platforms powered up. Fighter squadrons launched. The orbital defense grid lit up like a constellation. The message was clear without a single word being spoken. Humanity would not surrender. They would not stand down. They would fight. On his flagship, Admiral Thexril watched the display showing the human forces. He had expected 200 ships. The sensors showed more than double that number, with energy signatures he did not recognize. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind, but he had 1,200 ships. The humans had less than 500. The math was still in his favor. All ships, he commanded. Attack formation. We advance. The Vrelith fleet moved forward, entering weapons range. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Taemin watched them come. Around him, every officer and analyst waited for his orders. He thought about President Jiwoo's words, about the referendum where humanity chose freedom over safety, about every person looking up at the sky, trusting him to protect them. All ships, Taemin said quietly, engage the enemy. Show them what happens when humanity stands together. The first shots of the war lit up the darkness of space like lightning in a storm. The Vrelith fleet opened fire with plasma cannons that could melt through ship hulls in seconds. Missiles streaked across the void, leaving trails of light that looked almost beautiful from a distance. Admiral Taemin watched from the command center as the battle displays exploded with information. Red icons for enemy ships, blue for human vessels, yellow for incoming fire. It was chaos translated into numbers and symbols. All ships execute Plan Alpha, he commanded. Prometheus fleet decloak on my mark. The Vrelith had studied humanity's registered fleet carefully. They knew the specifications of every human ship, every weapon, every defensive capability. They had planned their attack based on that. Intelligence, they were about to learn how badly they had been deceived. The human ships that met the Vrelith attack were not the outdated vessels the Council had documented. They had been upgraded with technology that made them nearly unrecognizable. Shields powered by hybrid fusion antimatter reactors absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. Weapons fired with precision that suggested advanced targeting systems the Vrelith did not know existed. The initial exchange lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, 5 Vrelith ships were badly damaged and drifting. 0 human ships were destroyed. Admiral Thexril stared at his displays in confusion. How is this possible? Their weapons should not be this effective. His tactical officer had no answer. The humans were fighting with capabilities far beyond what intelligence had suggested. Bring forward the second wave, Thexril ordered. Overwhelm them with numbers. 200 additional Vrelith ships accelerated forward. They expected the humans to break formation, to scatter and run. Instead, something impossible happened. Mark, Admiral Taemin said calmly. The space behind Saturn's ring seemed to ripple. Then ships appeared, materializing as if from nowhere. 450 vessels of the Prometheus fleet decloaked simultaneously, their stealth systems deactivating to reveal the full strength of humanity's secret navy. The Vrelith formation disrupted in panic. Suddenly the numbers were not as overwhelming as they had seemed. What was supposed to be a 1,200 against 200 massacre had become a more even fight. Commander Soo-Jin Yoon watched from her stealth destroyer as the Prometheus fleet revealed itself. This was her moment. While the Vrelith were distracted by the sudden appearance of hundreds of ships, she would strike at their heart. Shadow of Earth to strike team, she transmitted to the other stealth ships. All ships advance on the flagship. Maximum stealth. Weapons free on my command. Her ship moved through the battle like a ghost. The Vrelith sensors could not detect her, focused as they were on the massive fleet engagement happening around them. She slipped between enemy vessels, getting closer and closer to Admiral Thexril's command ship. The flagship was enormous, 5 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. It sat in the center of the Vrelith formation, protected by layers of escorts and defensive screens. Getting to it should have been impossible, but Soo-Jin had spent her entire career doing impossible things. Target locked, her weapons officer reported. Quantum torpedoes ready. Fire, Soo-Jin commanded. The torpedoes were a human innovation, weapons that used quantum tunneling to phase through shields and armor. They existed in a superposition state until the moment of impact, making them effectively impossible to stop. 3 torpedoes struck the Vrelith flagship simultaneously. They materialized inside the ship's hull and detonated with devastating effect. Explosions ripped through the command deck, the engineering sections, and the primary weapons control. The flagship went dark, its lights flickering and dying. On the bridge, Admiral Thexril was thrown from his command chair by the impact. Alarms screamed. His officers shouted conflicting reports. Fires spread through corridors. The ship was dying and he did not even know what had hit him. Who fired those weapons? He demanded. Where did they come from? No one had an answer. The stealth ships remained invisible, already moving to their next targets. With the flagship crippled, the Vrelith fleet descended into chaos. Individual captains began making their own decisions without coordination from Central Command. Some retreated. Others attacked recklessly. The disciplined formation fell apart. Admiral Tae-min saw his opportunity. All ships exploit the disruption. Target their command vessels. Keep them off balance. The battle spread across the entire Sol system. At Mars, Governor Min-ho Choi watched from a reinforced bunker as Vrelith ships entered orbit. He had successfully evacuated most of the civilian population, but 40,000 people still sheltered underground, praying that the defenses would hold. The Martian defense platforms were operated by volunteers, civilians who had never expected to become soldiers. Teachers, engineers, farmers, all of them manning weapons they had barely trained to use. Incoming ships detected. The tactical display showed 57 enemy vessels. Min-ho activated the command channel. All platforms, this is Governor Choi. You know what to do. Protect our people. Make every shot count. The platforms opened fire with everything they had. Missiles launched in waves. Railguns fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Energy beams lanced through space toward the approaching enemy. The Vrelith had expected easy targets. They found determined resistance instead. 3 enemy ships were destroyed in the first minute of combat. Others took damage and pulled back to regroup. But there were too many of them. The defense platform started taking hits. One exploded in a ball of fire. Another went silent, its crew killed instantly. Min-ho watched good people die, knowing there was nothing he could do except keep fighting. Hold the line, he transmitted. Just hold the line. At Titan, the situation was even more desperate. Captain Dae-jung's daughter Subin flew her fighter through a storm of enemy fire, leading her squadron against Vrelith ships 10 times their size. She was 19 years old, flying her first real combat mission, and she was terrified. But she was also her father's daughter. Echo Squadron, form up on me, she commanded, her voice steady despite her fear. We take out their engines. Small, fast, and precise. They cannot hit what they cannot catch. Her squadron followed her lead, darting between the massive enemy vessels like angry insects. They fired missiles at critical points, targeting engine assemblies and power conduits. One by one, Vrelith ships found themselves crippled and drifting. Subin destroyed 3 enemy ships in 15 minutes. Her hands shook on the controls, but she did not stop. She could not stop. Behind her was Titan, where millions of people depended on her and her squadron. Back at Earth, Captain Dae-jung Kim commanded the orbital defense grid with calm determination. 30 Vrelith ships had broken through the outer defenses and were approaching the planet. His job was to stop them. All defense stations concentrate fire on lead vessels, he ordered. Do not let them reach the atmosphere. The stations unleashed torrents of fire. Plasma batteries fired in synchronized waves. Missile platforms launched everything they had. The space around Earth became a killing field, but the Vrelith kept coming. They accepted losses to push forward, desperate to strike at humanity's homeworld and force a surrender. 5 enemy ships made it through the defensive fire, then 10, then 15. Dae-jung made a decision that would haunt him forever. All ships with damaged engines prepare for ramming speed. If you cannot maneuver, make yourselves weapons. 3 human ships already badly damaged and unable to retreat turned toward the enemy. Their crews evacuated to escape pods, then engaged autopilot systems that aimed the vessels directly at Vrelith ships. The impacts were spectacular and terrible. 3 human ships crashed into 3 enemy vessels, the collisions releasing energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Both ships in each collision were destroyed completely, but it worked. The enemy advance faltered. The remaining Vrelith ships pulled back, reassessing their approach. Dae-jung closed his eyes for a moment, thinking about the crews who had just sacrificed themselves. Then he opened them and continued giving orders. There would be time for grief later. Right now there was only the fight. Engineer Hyun-woo Nam monitored the battle from the command center, watching the performance of his weapon systems. The quantum torpedoes worked better than expected. The shields were holding under extreme stress, but one system kept failing. The planetary defense cannon he had built inside Mount Kilimanjaro was designed to be humanity's ultimate weapon, a beam powered by Earth's own magnetic field. In theory, it could destroy multiple ships with a single shot. In reality, it had never been tested at full power. The calculations suggested it might crack the planet's crust if something went wrong. "The Vrelith ships are entering range of the cannon," an officer reported. "Do we fire?" Hyunwoo looked at the tactical display. 15 enemy ships were descending toward the atmosphere. If they made it through, they could bombard cities. Millions would die. He thought about his wife and children in Seoul, directly in the path of the enemy fleet. He thought about the risk of destroying the planet to save it. Then he made his choice. Activate the cannon. Full power. The weapon charged, drawing energy from Earth's magnetic field. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. When it fired, the beam was visible from space, a lance of pure energy that tore through the atmosphere and struck the enemy formation. 15 Vrelith ships were caught in the blast. They did not explode. They simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly. The remaining Vrelith ships in Earth orbit retreated in panic. They had never seen such a weapon. But Admiral Thexril, evacuated from his dying flagship to a secondary command ship, was not ready to surrender. He had lost hundreds of ships. His command structure was shattered, and the humans were fighting far better than anyone had predicted. In desperation, he made a terrible decision. "Arm the planet-killer weapon," he ordered. "If we cannot conquer Earth, we will destroy it." The weapon was forbidden by galactic law, designed to crack a planet's core and render it uninhabitable. It took 5 minutes to charge. Commander Soo-jin detected the energy signature from her stealth ship. She immediately understood what the Vrelith were planning. "Admiral, they are charging a planet killer," she transmitted to Taemin. "Target is Earth, detonation in 4 minutes. Taemin's face went pale. There was no weapon in the human fleet that could stop it from this distance. They could evacuate some people, but not billions. Not in 4 minutes. Soo-jin looked at her own tactical display. Her ship was close enough to the Vrelith command ship. She had one option. Shadow of Earth to Admiral Taemin. "I can stop it. But you need to evacuate the area around the secondary command ship. I am initiating reactor overload." Taemin understood immediately what she planned. "Commander, that is a suicide run." "Yes, sir, it is," Soo-jin replied calmly. "Tell my family I love them. And tell Earth that we did not let them down." She cut the transmission before Taemin could respond. There was no time for debate. Soo-jin transported her ship's reactor core to critical overload, then positioned the Shadow of Earth directly beside the Vrelith command vessel. Her crew had already evacuated in escape pods. She was alone on the bridge. "You do not get to kill our world," she whispered. The reactor detonated with the force of a small star. 3 months had passed since Commander Soo-jin Yoon sacrificed herself to save Earth. Her explosion had destroyed Admiral Thexril's command ship and 30 surrounding vessels. The planet-killer weapon had been annihilated before it could fire. Earth was saved. But the cost had been terrible. President Ji Woo-kang stood at the window of her office, looking out at the city below. Seoul was rebuilding, but the scars were still visible, buildings damaged in the orbital battle, memorial walls covered with names of the dead, parks converted to temporary housing for those who had lost their homes. The final casualty count had taken weeks to compile. 3,218 human ships destroyed or damaged beyond repair. 67,000 military personnel killed. 15,000 civilians dead on Mars when a Vrelith ship crashed into a settlement. Entire families wiped out. Children orphaned. Lives shattered. And yet humanity had won. The Vrelith fleet had limped home with barely half its ships remaining. The other council species that had supported the invasion quietly withdrew, shocked by humanity's strength and their own losses. The Morvan Republic was exposed as war profiteers and expelled from the council. The rogue Keltheran faction was purged by their own people, horrified at what had been done in their name. The galaxy had changed. The balance of power had shifted, and now everyone wanted to talk to Earth. Ambassador Hannah Park sat in her apartment, reading the latest diplomatic messages. 17 different species had sent formal apologies. 23 wanted to open trade negotiations. The Torvan Assembly was proposing a complete restructuring of the Galactic Council with humanity as a founding member. Her brother Jae-hoon entered carrying 2 cups of tea. He looked tired. They both did. The war had aged everyone. More apologies? He asked, sitting down beside her. And excuses, Hannah replied. They all claim they were manipulated, that they did not understand what they were voting for. Some of that is probably true, Jaehoon said. Counselor Ven sent evidence showing how the vote was rigged. Hana sipped her tea slowly. Does it matter? They voted to destroy us. They sent ships to kill our people. Whether they were manipulated or not, the result was the same. So what do? Jaehoon asked. Do we forgive them? Do we take revenge? Do we become the thing they feared? It was the question everyone on Earth was asking. The military wanted to press their advantage, to claim territory and resources as compensation for the war. Some civilian leaders wanted isolation, cutting off all contact with the galaxy that had tried to kill them. Others argued for reconciliation, for being better than their enemies. President Jiwoo had called for a global summit to decide humanity's path forward. It would begin in 2 days. Admiral Taemin Choi stood in the military cemetery, looking at the memorial wall that bore Commander Soo-jin's name. Her sacrifice had become a symbol, the defining moment of the war. Songs were written about her. Children learned her story in schools. She was humanity's hero. But Taemin knew the truth was more complicated. Soo-jin had been terrified when she made her final run. Her last private message to him, sent seconds before the explosion, had contained not brave words but a simple plea. Tell them I was scared, but I did it anyway. That was the real lesson, Taemin thought. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was doing what needed to be done despite the fear. He was no longer just a military commander. The war had transformed him into humanity's most visible symbol of strength. People looked to him for leadership, for direction, for answers he was not sure he had. The summit would force him to choose between 2 futures. One path led to expansion and conquest, using humanity's new military superiority to claim a dominant position in the galaxy. The other path led toward reconciliation and cooperation, accepting the Council's peace offerings and working to build something better. Both paths had merit. Both paths had risks. Captain Daejung Kim made his choice easier by retiring from military service. The injuries he sustained during the orbital defense of Earth had left him with permanent damage. He could no longer command ships or operate in zero gravity for extended periods. His daughter Subin had become a decorated war hero despite her youth. She had destroyed 11 enemy ships and saved countless lives during the defense of Titan. The military wanted to promote her, to make her a symbol like Soo-jin. But Daejung saw the cost in her eyes. She had nightmares. She flinched at loud noises. She carried the weight of the people she had killed. Even though they were enemies trying to kill her, "You do not have to keep fighting," he told her one evening as they sat together watching the sunset. "I know," Subin replied, "but I do not know how to stop." "Then learn," Daejung said gently. "The war is over. Now comes the harder work of living with what we did." Dr. Yuna Lee had spent the 3 months since the war documenting everything that had happened. She interviewed survivors, analyzed battle data, and compiled a comprehensive record of the conflict. Her goal was simple: make sure humanity never forgot what war truly cost. Her research had led her to an unexpected conclusion. The species that voted against Earth were not monsters. They were afraid. They had seen humanity's rapid advancement and interpreted it as a threat. Their fear had been manipulated by those with dark agendas, but the fear itself was not irrational. "We scared them," she explained to Ambassador Hana during one of their regular meetings. "We went from primitive planet-bound species to spacefaring civilization in 3 centuries. We built a secret fleet that rivaled anything in the galaxy. We developed weapons they had never seen. From their perspective, we looked like a dangerous unknown." "So the solution is what?" Hana asked. "We make ourselves less capable to make them comfortable?" "No," Yuna replied. "The solution is transparency. We show them who we are. We prove that our strength does not have to be a threat. We become partners, not conquerors." This philosophy would shape the position Hana took to the global summit. The summit convened in Geneva, bringing together leaders from every nation on Earth and every human colony. President Jiwoo opened the proceedings with a simple question: who do we want to be? For 3 days they debated. Military commanders argued for expansion. Civilian leaders called for isolation. Diplomats proposed cooperation. Philosophers discussed ethics. Economists analyzed costs and benefits. In the end, the decision came down to one fundamental truth. Humanity had fought for freedom, not for empire. We did not shed blood to become like the Council. President Jiwoo declared in her closing speech. We fought to remain free, to choose our own path, to protect our right to exist as we are. If we now use our strength to dominate others, we betray everyone who died for that freedom. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would accept the Council's offer of full membership with conditions. Earth would maintain its military strength as a guarantee against future aggression. Human sovereignty would be absolute and non-negotiable. But humanity would also engage with the galaxy as partners, not conquerors. Admiral Taemin was given a new role. He would establish a joint human-alien military academy, teaching both species to work together. It was a controversial decision, training former enemies, but Taemin understood its importance. We can teach them to fear us, he explained to his critics. Or we can teach them to respect us. Fear fades when the threat is gone. Respect endures. The Academy's first class included students from 15 different species, including 3 from the Torvan Assembly and 2 from the reformed Keltharan Collective. They trained alongside human cadets, learning to understand each other. It was not easy. Old prejudices died hard, but slowly, carefully, understanding began to grow. Engineer Hyunwoo Nam dismantled the planetary defense cannon inside Mount Kilimanjaro. The weapon had saved Earth, but its existence violated several galactic treaties that humanity had now agreed to follow. More importantly, Hyunwoo recognized that such weapons were symbols of fear, not strength. We do not need to threaten planets to be strong, he told the engineers helping with the dismantling. Our strength comes from our innovation, our determination, and our unity. That cannot be destroyed by any weapon. The Prometheus Initiative technology was not dismantled, but it was no longer secret. Humanity shared some of its innovations with allied species, particularly the Torvan Assembly. In return, they gained access to alien medical technology that saved thousands of human lives. Ambassador Hana Park returned to the Galactic Council chamber 5 years after the war. The building had been relocated to a neutral space station, jointly operated by multiple species. The chamber itself had been redesigned, with humanity now having a permanent seat with veto power. But more important than the physical changes were the structural reforms. The Council had adopted transparency requirements, preventing the kind of secret manipulation that had led to the vote against Earth. Species could no longer be expelled or attacked without extensive review and evidence. It was not perfect. No political system was, but it was better. Hana stood to address the Council about a new crisis on the galactic rim. A young species called the Wethics was facing extinction from a natural disaster. They needed help. The Wethics have asked for our assistance, Hana stated. They need ships, supplies, and expertise to evacuate their dying world. Earth proposes a joint Council relief mission. We will contribute 30 ships and 5,000 personnel. This time, when she spoke, the Council listened, not because they feared humanity, though the memory of the war certainly helped, but because humanity had earned respect through strength tempered with wisdom. The Torvan representative, Councillor Ven, was the first to support the motion. The Torvan Assembly will contribute 15 ships and medical personnel. We stand with Earth in this. One by one, other species pledged support. The motion passed unanimously. After the session, Ven approached Hana privately. You have changed the Council more than you know, the alien being said in its translated voice. Before Earth, we made decisions based on power and politics. Now we are remembering what we should have been all along. And what is that? Hana asked. A force for good in the galaxy. Captain Daejung Kim, now retired, sat with his daughter Soo-bin in a small cafe near their home. She had left the military after 5 years of service, choosing instead to become a teacher. She worked with children who had lost parents in the war, helping them process grief and trauma. Do you ever regret it? Soo-bin asked her father. The choice to fight instead of submit? Daejung thought about the question carefully. He thought about the thousands who died. The cities damaged, the families destroyed. The cost had been immense, but he also thought about what would have been lost if they had surrendered. Freedom, dignity, the right to choose their own path. Those things had value beyond measurement. I regret the cost, he finally answered. I regret every life lost, every family broken. But I do not regret the choice. We stood for something worth fighting for, and we proved that some things are more important than safety. Soo-bin nodded slowly. One of my students asked me yesterday why we fought. She is 6 years old. She lost both parents in the Mars attack. She wanted to know if it was worth it. What did you tell her? I told her the truth. That her parents died so she could grow up free. That they died protecting her right to ask questions like that. That their sacrifice was not in vain because we choose every day to be worthy of it. Daejung reached across the table and took his daughter's hand. That is the right answer. President Jiwoo Kang stood before the assembled media for her final press conference before stepping down from office. She had served 2 terms, leading humanity through its darkest hour and into a new age. Now it was time for someone else to carry the burden. When I took this office, she said to the cameras broadcasting across Earth and its colonies, I never imagined I would have to lead us through war. I never wanted that responsibility, but history does not care what we want. It cares what we do when tested. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Humanity was tested. The galaxy voted against us. They demanded we surrender our freedom. We chose defiance. That choice defined us. It showed the galaxy who we are. But more importantly, it showed ourselves who we can be when we stand together. The war is over. The battles are won. But the work is not finished. Now we must prove that our strength was earned, not stolen. That our victory was just not tyrannical. That we deserve the freedom we fought for. She looked directly into the camera, knowing that billions watched across the stars. To the next generation, you inherit a galaxy changed by our choices. You inherit alliances built on respect, not fear. You inherit freedom purchased with sacrifice. Honor those who died to give you this future. Build something worthy of their memory. The transmission ended. Jiwoo stepped away from the podium for the last time. 7 years after the war, the Sol system was thriving. Earth had rebuilt. Mars was expanding. New colonies were being established with council approval and support. Human ships traveled freely through galactic space, no longer subjects but equals. Ambassador Hana Park stood in the council chamber as they debated the admission of a new species. The Vrelith Dominion, humbled by their defeat and reformed by internal revolution, had applied to rejoin the council under new leadership. The debate was contentious. Many species remembered the invasion, but humanity's vote would be decisive. When it came time for Hana to speak, she stood and addressed the chamber with the wisdom earned through suffering. The Vrelith attacked us. They tried to destroy us. Thousands of humans died because of their aggression. We could vote to exclude them forever. We could use our power to punish them, but that would make us the very thing we fought against. She paused, letting her words resonate. The old council voted against Earth out of fear. We choose to vote differently. We choose to believe that species can change, that enemies can become allies, that the future does not have to repeat the past. Earth votes yes. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Hana's vote had shifted the momentum. In the end, the Vrelith were admitted with probationary status. After the session, one of the new Vrelith representatives approached Hana. Why? The being asked simply. After everything we did, why grant us this chance? Hana smiled sadly. Because someone has to break the cycle. Someone has to choose forgiveness over revenge, hope over hatred. We fought for the right to make our own choices. This is the choice we make. The story of humanity's defiance became a legend told across the galaxy. But the real legacy was not the battle or the victory. It was the choice that came after. The choice to be strong without being cruel. To be free without oppressing others. To remember the cost of war while working for peace. On Earth, in classrooms and homes, parents told their children about Commander Su Jin and Captain Dae-jung and all the others who had stood against impossible odds. They told them about the price of freedom and the value of courage. But most importantly, they taught them that strength without wisdom is tyranny, and victory without mercy is hollow. The Galaxy Council had voted against Earth. Their greatest error was defiance, but humanity's greatest achievement was not defying the Council. It was choosing what to do with that defiance. They could have conquered. They chose to cooperate. They could have punished. They chose to forgive. That choice made all the difference.